Shelly and Jason Martinkus with another kitchen conversation.
Long time no Convo.
That's right. We have been on a little hiatus for about a year. I think it's been about a year since our last kitchen convo, and that's because we welcomed our third son into the world. So he's 7 months old now, and I guess we're coming up for air and anxious to get back to doing some more kitchen convos.
Finally.
So we're back.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't you get started?
Okay. All right. Last month at E&B during the wives talk, somebody asked a question about how are we supposed to handle our wives' pain? How are we supposed to handle the hard conversations that come after disclosure? And for so many guys, it feels like those conversations are loaded with rhetorical questions. They're rapid fire. How could you do this? You know, what were you thinking? You know, questions that are just simply unanswerable in those moments. And for so many wives, they're screaming, they're yelling, they're expressing this pain and this anguish, this betrayal, this stuff that they've experienced. And as a husband, it taps into our shame, and we don't know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. And so as we're describing this last month, I grabbed my backpack to try to explain somewhat how this goes for a couple. And the way I described it is, for a wife, whenever we do disclosure, it's like we take this backpack, and we're like, we're loading this thing up with bricks full of shame and guilt and betrayal and
lies and deceit,
yes, all this stuff. And so it's like we take this backpack and sort of button it up and then say, okay, how do you wear that? And that's not what we mean to do, it's not what we intend to do, but that's what we end up doing. Mm-hmm. And then, think about the early days for us. It's like you were trying to give me this backpack back, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you were wanting me to hold the pain. And think about what would you say was the pain of those early days? Like when you were screaming and yelling, what were you wanting me to get and to carry?
Yeah, I think I wanted you to completely understand how broken my heart was. And I wanted you to feel what I was feeling. And I don't know that I knew you could feel mm-hmm. that was possible. But I wanted, as much as possible, I wanted you to feel that.
Which is something that's completely misunderstood by a lot of guys, is they think their wives are just wanting them to hurt as bad as they hurt. Like, you're just trying to inflict as much pain on me as I've inflicted on you. And some wives accuse their husbands of doing things they haven't done, and they're catastrophizing, and in those moments when they're screaming, yelling, throwing hurtful things, heavy things, it's like, it feels like you just want me to hurt as bad as you hurt.
I do think there is some truth to that.
Okay.
Just so you know. I mean, I do think, there is truth to when I feel terrible, there's...
Like misery loves company kind of thing?
Partly. Yeah. And maybe some punishment in there, like, this is what you did, so I do think there is some truth to that.
Okay. So why, though? What's the goal of making me feel the same pain you felt?
I think that's a good question.
Understanding some of it's malicious.
Right, but like I said a little bit ago, I think that I want you to understand completely how broken my heart is, or my heart was. Mm-hmm. And I don't want you ever to do that again. So maybe if I know that you can really feel how I feel, that will change the future. Right.
And so what happens for a lot of guys is a wife is saying all those things and doing those things and trying to get him to take the backpack.
Right.
And as guys, we're like, I don't want it either because it taps all my shame. And it's like, well, you keep it. And then the wife's like, no, you keep it. And then what a lot of guys end up doing is sort of sitting on the floor and just being like, okay, I don't want it. And the way that comes off in those conversations is, why are you asking me all these questions? Haven't we been over this? Shouldn't you forgive me by now? Those kinds of things. Right. Which I said too in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So as a wife, what do you do with that?
Well, first I just want to say that what we hear, what I heard, which is why do we have to talk about this again? Why haven't you forgiven me, etc. That is so hurtful, because that's the opposite of that really validating how I feel. And all of a sudden I feel like, oh, I'm the broken one. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
So in other words, I'm taking those bricks out and just kind of throwing them back at you.
yeah. Versus just sitting with me and my pain, and listening and
Mm-hmm.
saying, okay, I understand. Yes, you have every right to feel this way.
Yeah. One of the things I try to coach guys on at the workshop as well as in my office is, a wife is holding on to this backpack like she's got it. And one of the most difficult things to do is to be the initiator of the conversation and say, let me hold this for a while. Tell me about your hurt today.
Yes.
Tell me about your pain today. Were you triggered today? Did you think about what I did today? It is so hard to come and take that away. But as a wife, what does that do when a guy does that?
Well, one, I mean, the door swings open and all of a sudden I feel like, oh, you really care about my heart and how I feel. Oh, this is a safe place for me to share with you how I feel. And then I feel like I can share those things with you. And that, I think, is one of those bricks towards building emotional intimacy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So, advice for husbands. So guys who were like me in the beginning, who are like, I don't want that stinking backpack. Like, what's your advice to them? If somebody's got to carry that backpack of burden, I guess, what's your advice to them?
Yeah, I think the onus is on the husband to pick up the backpack and to carry it. And ultimately, I think, like I just said, I think by creating a space for your wife to feel safe and secure in expressing how she's feeling and how her day went and what she's been processing, I think ultimately it's not me trying to shame you. It's truly me working through the healing process. And so it's not so much, I think it's futile for us to pass the backpack back and forth, but rather if you can hold it and then we can maybe start taking the bricks out, looking at them and setting them down and starting to build a healthy wall of emotional intimacy.
I guess the last thing that I'd say is a message to wives is you're not wrong for wanting your husband to carry that backpack. Like, it's totally appropriate and valid that you would want your husband to be the initiator of those hard conversations, to carry that backpack of pain, that when you're hurting, for him to throw his hands up and go, I don't want that, and push it back is just, it's pouring salt in the wound. Completely valid that you would want him to carry that. Right? Okay. Enough for another kitchen conversation. We're going to be doing more.
Yes.
All right, so we'll be back with more soon.
Yes.
Okay.
See you soon.